So this is Laurie Laizure,
Yes.
and she is the managing director of Interior Design Community, a vibrant nonprofit resource for thousands of designers, literally worldwide, seriously, to learn from one another, to share fears, frustrations, and desires, and gain valuable information to make their businesses stronger so that they may increase revenue and build better procedures. Who doesn't want to build a better procedure? Laurie loves to help designers and listens to their problems. She keeps all questions confidential, so it's a safe space to ask questions. She brings a fun sense of humor and witty banter to everyday problems that designers face. From my point of view, I could say that Laurie is really one of my favorite people, but I have a lot of favorite people. So what I am going to do is move this in a slightly more woo-woo direction, which is the direction and the space I'm most comfortable in. So in terms of that, if love is the answer, which I think love is the answer to every question, even though it's a hard place to get to sometimes, it really is. If love is the greatest power, which I also believe it is, if we're coming from a space of love, everything from our individual relationships and networking, our clients, and even our country will move in a better, more harmonious direction. And if acceptance is a keyword, which for me, it's one of my 3 keywords for the year, accepting what shows up in front of me, as well as being more accepting of myself, then with those 3 kind of concepts, I have really the privilege of introducing you to someone who is the trifecta of those things. What I have been able to see Laurie go through in business and life over the last decade is nothing short of earth-shattering. Really, you're an amazing human being. She's going to share an overload of great information for you. She's one of the best, most connected resources out there. I mean, she is energy personified. I can't get half done what she does. So she's a visionary, she's a tactical person, she's a connector, she's compassionate, and I think you're going to get a lot out of Laurie's session. So the floor is yours, my friend.
Well, good morning again. And I want to just get in and start talking about marketing yourself as a designer, as a business in design. It is something that I am pretty passionate about. We do it with Interior Design Community, and we have for the last 12 years on multiple social media networks. We grew primarily on social, originally on Google+, which doesn't exist anymore. We had 100,000 when they closed, and we jumped over to Instagram. We've got 109,000 now. Many are in the US and Canada, but we do have an international audience as well, because those problems that designers face every day are pretty international. You have issues with clients, you have issues with vendors, you have contracts problems, you have just it's an emotional job, and so much is left out of your hands that we try to bring designers together to solve some of those problems, and even just being moral support to one another. It's so powerful to bring people together and become human and make that human connection with one another. So we're going to kind of dive in, because I have had sort of a privilege working for Interior Design Community of watching the only people I talk to are designers. I follow designers. So I tend to see the bubble that you exist in and what might be beneficial of use of your time and what isn't. It's a lot of productivity hacks now that can help you become better marketers. I think for a lot of designers out there, marketing feels inauthentic. You're trying to get the word out there, but you want to do that in a way that feels representative of you. And that is difficult because you feel like you're selling yourself is just not a comfortable situation to be in. It doesn't feel natural for so many people. And I'm going to just start by saying, like, give yourself permission to market. So don't feel like you're being annoying. Don't feel like people are seeing another post from you. You have to imagine it from their perspective too. When you're going through Instagram, you're not judging people in that way. You're not looking, oh, I don't like that post. They're so weird. You are accepting. And so just taking that on and realizing that you can do that too, that you are allowed that space to market your product lines and market what you're doing, and just thinking about it from in terms of the client that you're trying to attract. So we're going to cover a lot about that. First, what is marketing? I think for a lot of people, especially in our industry, we define marketing as the social media, the networking that we have to do. Right now, we are marketing. You're here representing your business. You're talking to fellow colleagues. You're learning. You're growing, and that is part of how you get your name out for your business. It's an effective bridge between your unique talents and the clients that need them the most. And we want to show you some really great tips that will help you market better. The first being local strategy. Google Business. I would say if you don't have a website even, Google My Business or Google Business or Meta Business Suite, they change their name all the time, is probably one of the most important landscapes of your marketing. It's where you can collect reviews. I mean, how many of you, before you go stay at a hotel or before you go to a restaurant, read the reviews, make sure that where you're going is reputable, that you're going to have a good experience. Well, the same thing exists for your clients. So you really want to make sure you're paying attention to your Google business. I know a lot of people who said it and then they never go to it again. And so figuring out ways that you can utilize it. And I think, if you have a client, it's very difficult for a designer because your buying cycle might be 2 years. But never forget that during that cycle, you can ask for reviews in the process of design and not just at the end. So if they had a great customer service relationship with you, you can ask for a review from one of the shareholders in the conversation for a review about customer service. You could ask. So it could be the wife you're asking about customer service. The husband you might ask about the overall design aesthetic at the end. You could ask even the children in the home or relatives or friends that are coming to the house. They're looking at your work, colleagues that you work with, vendors. Feel free to reach out and get reviews. People want to know how you are to work with, what it is you do, and you want to keep that active. You don't want one review that was 5 years ago. And, for me looking at you, when I'm Googling your business, if I don't see something fairly recent, I'm not sure if you're still in business because a lot of people do not, close out their Google business listing once they have closed their business. So you want to make sure it has up-to-date information. It's not something you have to do every day, but once a month would be a really ideal time to spend just trying to get another review, trying to update your listing with what you're doing so that it looks to Google like you're active. And they really do actually boost the accounts that have more activity. So if I'm typing in Chicago, an interior designer, it's trying to bring up the Google listings that are most relevant to me, where I am. It knows your location on your phone. And if you are here, you want to be that business listing that is active. So I would say this is by far, other than the aggregator accounts that also allow you to have reviews like House or whatever, you really want to own those in your own location. And that is on Google for right now. ChatGPT is playing into this now. So there is some gamifying stuff we'll talk about later that will help you come up in ChatGPT listing searches, which I do think it's something you have to start paying attention to because people are searching on ChatGPT more than they are on Google for that kind of information. And so it's going to grow and grow and grow. So it is like the yellow pages really being on Google. 80% of search exists today through Google. But you do want to start paying attention to ChatGPT and coming up. And again, monthly maintenance is key. Understanding your brand. So your brand is really just what people think about you and your business when you're not in the room. And it's not necessarily, I think people get it confused with like their logo and the fonts choices and the aesthetic on their site, but it really goes much deeper than that. It's the trust value you have with your community, with the list of brands that you use, with designers that you work with contractors. Your brand is how people perceive you. when you're not in the room. And you have to craft that in such a way that attracts the kind of people that you want following you. So we have done an excellent job of that. I'm patting myself on the back, but interior design community, we're able to, we're trying to get a very specific audience. I want interior designers to follow me. That is a very specific audience. So you market and think in terms of what interior designers' fears, frustrations, and desires are at all times. I mean, if I'm making a post, I'm thinking about how that affects them and not about necessarily what I want to be talking about. I really work with what is popular for designers. And you are able to kind of do that in a way that identifies your ideal audience. So you want luxury buyers in your area. So typically, now I know a lot of designers will do a lot of work outside of their area, but your primary area that you do work with is really what you want to consider. You want to think about your potential client, and you can even color code them when you're starting to kind of plan that out in a content calendar of who that is. You might have a young family that lives in one neighborhood here in Chicago. You could have an established neighborhood where they have grown children. You can have younger, young couples. And I'm sure you could identify right now where those people might exist and what you would do to try to attract the people in those areas and the kind of content that they are interested in. And you should be thinking of how that in turn relates to your brand. So if your brand is very young and fun and friendly, what kind of client is that going to attract? And how is that going to bring those clients to you? So thinking about your brand in terms of how you're going to get there. Now, strategic positioning in the market, it's really, I think ChatGPT is an excellent resource for this too. You can analyze the competition. What keywords are they using that are coming up? What does their portfolio look like? What does their pricing look like? How the people that you position as close to your dream business, you should be studying them on social media. You should be studying their websites. You should be studying how often they get reviews. All of these, their pricing strategies, and make sure that you are in line with the kind of business that you want to be. So this is something that I think people think takes a tremendous amount of time, and it really doesn't. I mean, you can spend even just a day, a month, thinking about strategy and positioning and even execution of marketing. And you really can get it all done in one day if you needed to. Building your visual portfolio. This is another one that I think is just from watching interior design websites over and over and over again. I think that there is sometimes a disconnect with, what that client needs to look like. We all want to invest in and have beautiful photographs. We know that if we get that level up project and we get that photographed professionally and it looks gorgeous, that will attract the same clients. But on your website, often designers will not have any words on their portfolio at all. I would say 90% have no words on their portfolio. And to Google, they understand pictures, but contextually, they don't understand what you did in those projects. So using their projects like a case study, writing a little bit about the client, the story of who they are, what they were looking for, why did they hire you, what did you accomplish in your project, what were the main objectives, and how did you reach those? Even like strong storytelling, you want to have that problem arc and how you solved it. Think of that in terms of the reader and how they would want to perceive that from you. So, and you can feel free also to use like geotagging to know where, you want, even in your project portfolio, if you have just like this photo and that photo, you can kind of meld them together really and say, this is in this neighborhood, this is in this neighborhood, so that you have to be thinking about how you're attracting the client in the neighborhoods you want to be getting more business. So that's really depending on words, the words that you're writing on your portfolio. And I strongly suggest having each project have at least like 2,000 words so that you can go through that. And also don't be afraid to tag and mention the brands that you worked with, the collaborative partners that you worked with. And then when you share that project, tagging them so that they will share it as well, just amplifies the message that you're doing this work anyway. Why not get credit for it among all of the people that were a part of the project? And, maybe they would be interested in you writing a blog for their website too, one of the brands or one of the collaborative partners like your contractor or your builder, so that you're just explaining what you do and your process to as a large audience as possible. You already did this work and you just want the message to be spread. In that element of creating a standout website, you really do need to think about the website elements, like creating a homepage that brings people in. I think sometimes we forget things like basic things like location on your website, your phone number, an easy way for people, lower the friction for people to be able to get a hold of you. And I know that's annoying sometimes because sometimes you'll get people that are not potential clients, you'll get people who want to sell you stuff, but having your phone number listed on your website, having your location, if you have a home office rather than a physical office, Google will not let you use your physical home address as an office, but you can use post office boxes and things like that. So those are ways to get around that. I also know showrooms that have partnered with designers to have like in-house workstations, so you can utilize sometimes the showroom address or the mart here as a co-working space, and that might help you get a Google page with your location. You definitely don't need to spend a tremendous amount of money on a website, but you need to keep it active. I mean, it's not something you invest in and then just let it sit forever. You want to make sure that it's easy enough for you to use that you can write a blog post, send out an email, try to attract new followers, because as much as we love social media, like I said, we originally built on Google Plus and it went away. So you're building on borrowed land. Your website is something that you own. And even though it is hosted, all of those entities are yours. So when you're building your email list, that's yours. Your website is yours. It's your chance to have your voice. And I will say, page load speed is very important. The design is very important. Video is very important. So as much as you want the client, by the time that they have really contacted you, to know how you work, around what it would cost, what the projects you do look like, so that you can just get them onboarded. That's the ideal, is they already know by the time that they are contacting you, they've been thinking about this project for a long time and they've decided you're the person they want to work with. That's the best case scenario, because you want them to solely be consenting to the process that you're doing and understanding what you're doing as a project manager. There are lots of different platforms for designers: Squarespace, WordPress, Wix format. There's all over the pricing. I like WordPress. I've used WordPress a long time. A lot of designers love Squarespace. You just want to have some flexibility. You want to be able to, like, Squarespace is a closed platform, whereas WordPress has a lot more features and benefits because you can add plugins. So you want to put a newsletter together, you can have a newsletter plugin that would make that process easier for you. SEO. So there are lots of ways to pay attention to SEO, but I really think for the interior design business, 90% of interior designers should be focusing on local, because most of your clients are going to come from the local market. You want to make sure you're getting the keyword phrases that are coming up for all the neighborhoods you want to service, with as many combinations as you can come up with. You can search answerthepublic.com is a good resource and type in something like Chicago interior designer. And that will give you a graph that has a big circle graph of all of the terms, all of the keywords that people type that are related to Chicago interior designer. And you can one by one make a post using those phrases, and that will have a complete picture. You can also take some of those phrases and put them into Google directly. How do I hire the best interior designer in Chicago? Could be one search. And then you will look at what other questions come up in that search and add those to your blog post that you're going to make about this keyword. Anytime you can tie this into local businesses that are also servicing the luxury audience, the better. So think in terms of like, I want to target these neighborhoods. Who else would be servicing a luxury business? So right now in March, we just had St. Patrick's Day. You could have done a post in the beginning of March that was about 10 amazing pubs that you'd want to spend, St. Patrick's Day in that are not crazy, and that look beautiful. And you can write little beautiful blurbs about each one. You can give your clients potentially like a Irish playlist that's very popular. You could give them a recipe. You could say, oh, and the next post, by the way, is going to be about outdoor furniture because it takes 6 weeks to get your outdoor furniture in. And we want you to have the hottest new items that you'd want for your backyard. So you're really always priming them for sales, but not in a direct sales way, and giving them things that are actually valuable to your audience. I mean, I would think if you were in February and you wanted to do the most romantic restaurants, or if you're heading into the summer, you have quick getaways you could do. I know that leans more lifestyle versus design, but you have to think about what your potential client who is a luxury buyer is interested in. I know a lot of designers, when we go to events like this, right after KBIS might say, what are the trends at KBIS? Well, your client doesn't really know what KBIS is. That information is actually going to reach other interior designers because they know what KBIS is, and that's the wrong market for you. You want to be talking about maybe like 3 new things you saw that you think clients should invest in. Maybe cold plunge. That was very popular at KBIS. That I would have like who is investing in cold plunge. This is something that you're interested in implementing in your own house. You want to start that conversation and keep top of mind and giving them valuable content as much as you possibly can. So thinking in terms of what they want to hear from you, I think most design clients think of you all as style makers. They think of you as people who have it all together and know everything that there is to know about making your lives beautiful as well as your homes. And so really leaning into that to think about what you could provide to them that would be very interesting and that would keep them coming back for more. Pinterest strategy. I really think Pinterest is still very popular to get people on your website. So we'll go over a statistic soon, but the life cycle of a Pinterest post is 3 to 6 months. So it has longevity, and you want that. You want the clients to be reaching you over and over and over again. Blog posts are about 2 years, but Instagram posts are about 6 hours. So you definitely want to be where the potential client is and figure out how to allocate your resources. Your resources for marketing are limited. We all have a limitation on what we can do for marketing, but best bang for buck is smart. So figuring out how this will bring potential new clients to your site. Facebook is still something that you can work on. I actually use Facebook a lot for ads. You do not want to use your phone to do an ad. It's certainly not if you have an Apple phone. They have increased the rate in which you pay for an ad. If you activate that from your phone, if you boost it from your phone by 30%, Apple takes a 30% cut. So you definitely want to do that on a laptop. And you want to also think in terms of whose market do I want to steal? So maybe you want to run an ad for people that follow the local Mercedes dealership, the local Land Rover dealership, the local day school, country club. Who else is servicing luxury clients, and how can you piggyback off of those clients? And even utilizing their Instagrams, their public Instagrams, who's following them? These are easy ways to engage that you are able to be active. It's kind of like tapping people on the shoulder if you're liking posts of people who follow those businesses and say, hey, I'm here. I'm an interior designer in your area. It's not annoying if you like a few of their posts and start engaging. You want people to engage with you, you have to engage first. So you have to be willing to have that conversation. And I know a lot of designers here in the room that do a great job at that and they have built real relationships because they have created that content. The group strategy too, I have designers who have had real success creating local groups or even groups that are tailored to the kind of design they want to do. I have a designer who created a Facebook group for cabin life, and it has grown exponentially, and she has jobs booked for the year because they come in, they're talking about cabin life, she shows what she's doing. That's her niche, is cabin design. And she does projects in Colorado, in New Hampshire, in Maine, and all over the world, and Tahoe, because that's the aesthetic that she has been able to market to, and she's created such a vibrant group of interested people that are very interested in cabin design. Like I said, targeted advertising can be very helpful. LinkedIn. Now, Denise, I don't use LinkedIn as much as you do, Denise. You love it, yes. But I am strategic about who I follow. So I know often designers want to be published in magazines. I'll just use that as an example. And they will go to the editor of the magazine and pitch the editor. And I will tell you that's probably the wrong strategy. You definitely want to look at the magazine, find out who the writers are. Linking in with those writers is a much better strategy. Liking what they're posting, talking to them directly. I saw this article that you just wrote about this beautiful kitchen that just got done, and we have a project that's coming up that is outstanding. I'd really love for you to take a look at it. And then do the work for them too, right? Write out a little bit about the client, again, a little bit about what problems you solved, some of the contributors that were part of the project. Just strategically thinking about how to use these tools in the best way for you to make those connections. All of the writers that you want to get to know, all of the brands that you want to get to know, all of the designers that are in the same realm as you that you want to get to know, even potentially clients that you can start targeting that you're reading an article about a new CEO of Salesforce here across from the hotel, or they just hired a new marketing person and here for Chicago. Maybe link in with them. These are ways that you can grow your network of luxury buyers. Instagram is my favorite place, and we poll designers often, and Instagram always comes up as the #1 social platform still for interior designers. I would say since Reels became more important to them, that is really where you're going to get the most traction for new followers. We do questions of the day on a regular basis, and we do memes, like funny memes that go viral. I will tell you, our memes get us new followers, but our questions of the day are very popular with our current followers. So having content for both people that are your current followers and people who you want to become followers, that attracts them in. I think, there are a lot of amazing tools out there, and one of the things that I really think would be valuable for you all is to think about what your client doesn't know about about design. What are their fears, frustrations, desires? A client, like they might be thinking it's going to take too long. It's going to be so expensive. I don't know if I'm going to get what I really want at the end. I'm investing a lot of money. I don't know what I want. I'm trusting this person I don't know to navigate me through this process. How can you empathize with them about that? How can you lead them through the process so that they understand what they're getting into? And you can do a lot of that with video content, and even regurgitating your old products in your old portfolio images. You can take an image. I know a lot of designers who are frustrated with aggregator accounts, like they're people who are influencers and they are sharing other people's work all the time. But only you know actually what happened in that project. So you have such an advantage where you could take any one of your portfolio images, green screen that, write direct through Instagram app, and talk about one thing that happened in that project. It could be, when the cabinets went in, we had a little bit of an issue, and this is how we handled it. What you're doing, you're selling without really selling. You're telling people, this is a hard job. This is what I do behind the scenes to take care of you that you don't even know that I do. And you want to be talking about those types of things all over the place. I'm sure that every portfolio image that you have probably has 20 different stories you can think of that happened on the day that the tile went in, or the countertop went in, or the hardware that you had to swap out. You have a lot of stories that are interesting about what you did in that 2-year process that you designed this kitchen or bath or house. And you want to make sure that the client understands all of the work that goes into interior design. I remember a designer that I was talking to me about, and she didn't understand what to post. And we just sat and talked, and she had recently installed these beautiful drapes, and she had worked with the material before. And so instead of having the workroom hem them, because last time she had that happen, they just didn't sit properly, she had the workroom come in on site and hem them on site so they draped beautifully. Your client doesn't know you did that, so that's a perfect thing to talk about, because what you're saying without saying it is, look at all of the things that I do that you don't even have to worry about. I have solved these problems before they've come up, because I've dealt with this before. My history of working in design allows me to give you this information. And it could be good, better, best. When we walk into a design project, oftentimes the client doesn't know the brands that we know. So it's not like a Louis Vuitton bag or a Chanel purse. They don't know what a Korean company light fixture is. They don't know the brands that you know. So you have to build the storytelling about what is good, what is better, what is best, why you're specifying these products. Because I think oftentimes when they are going online and they're shopping you, it's because they don't really know these brands and they just want the cheapest price. But setting them up to understand what the value of those relationships is before you've even ordered anything, and really talking about the value of each individual product and strong storytelling around those products, let them know what the investment is and why that investment is important to their project. TikTok is, we don't know if it's going away. I'm pretty sure it's going away, but there will be another replacement. Anytime there is a new social media platform, and I could tell you, I know in our group, we talked about TikTok probably in 2018, and you can see it rising. And so it looks always uncomfortable to jump on as an early adopter, because usually people are doing things that you don't feel comfortable doing. So when TikTok first started, it was a lot of dancing. And I can imagine designers are like, this is for kids, they're just dancing. But where your kids go, parents tend to go, because they want to be there, and that audience also grows. So in that time that TikTok has been around, that audience has matured. There are I have TikTok. There are a lot of interesting things I've learned about on TikTok. I'm sure all of you have too. And jumping on early and thinking about how to spin it. So when I first was on Instagram, we were early adopters of Instagram. And, we originally came from Google+, where anyone could share what they did. So a lot of people were just submitting questions and people were answering the questions, and we were just moderating. This required us, because it's all picture format, for us to take those questions. We could usually get them in DMs, probably about 10 a day, turn them into graphics, and we are in charge of starting that conversation every day instead of allowing the designers to do that. And every network that you exist on operates a little bit differently, and you want to find that sweet spot of how can I translate what I do to this new social media platform. And I will say short form video is not going away anytime soon. YouTube Shorts still have good traction. Reels will have traction. TikToks will have traction, and anything that comes after that. Because there are a lot of new sites that are going to pop up if TikTok does go away, trying to regain that, because there are a group of those people do not want to go to Facebook and do Reels. So they're going to end up somewhere. And one of the really great things about that is wherever they end up, it's brand new. So there's an even playing field now, and you can jump in. I know that just researching this, Bear Paint, early adopter of TikTok, got on board with TikTok. It has had a dramatic difference in their sales. They have skyrocketed with not only just consumer DIY, but now with designers, because they have invested so much in TikTok and they were able to translate what they do to that video audience. Consistency is key, and it is really hard to feed the beast, but there are a lot of really great scheduling tools. I do recommend 5 posts a week on social. I know that's hard to hit every day, certainly if you're doing it by hand, but as much as you can do that and keep consistent and really make sure that you'll get better with it over time, but making sure you're really targeting the audience that you want to show up on your Instagram. And this is the graphic that I wanted you to all look at, where blogging, it's almost 2 years. Pinterest, it's anywhere from 3 to 6 months, really. YouTube, 8 days. LinkedIn, 24 hours. Instagram, it's 19 hours. Really, it's about 6. Facebook, just 76 minutes. X, 43 minutes. And then nothing for Snapchat. So, because it doesn't go anywhere. This gives you an idea of where you can focus your time and how long that is going to last. And that's why blogging isn't really dead. I know designers who are fully making money. They're making a whole separate income because of the blogging. They've built up now 10 years of blogging, and so they're getting money through ads. You just apply for Google Ads. Anyone can apply for Google Ads, and they will place ads through your site as you get more popular. Creating a content calendar is important. Understanding it's similar to what the brand, the advertisers that you're talking to are. They have their editorial calendar planned out, sometimes years in advance. You can start thinking as early as you want about what content you want to be talking about. What are the lead times for the products that you're selling? So right now, like I said, you might be wanting to talk to clients about outdoor furniture because it's 6 weeks to 12 weeks for furniture to come in. You don't want them to get that outdoor furniture at the end of the summer. So if they're doing an outdoor kitchen, if they're doing, redoing the patio, think about that in terms of how long it takes to get something, when it would be valuable to the client, what is in the month, what would they be interested in? Are they starting to think about vacations that they're going to be taking this summer? Are they thinking about the kids are coming home, are going to be home a lot more, and maybe we should redo their rooms or we should redo outdoor? And then scheduling this so that it's just taken care of for you. There are so many great tools that allow you to spend the time. It takes about an hour. If you did 5 posts a day on Instagram, just throw that out for Instagram, it takes about an hour to schedule a whole month's worth of posting. There are a lot of free scheduling tools. We have Laizure, Buffer. Canva allows scheduling. Facebook Creator Studio is free. Meta's version, it will allow you to schedule Facebook posts and Instagram posts for free. You can pull those in through Drive, through Dropbox, all of your images, schedule them, write whatever you want to write about it. If you want to do it, that will kind of I always think of that as like keeping it, the marketing just going on autopilot, but you want to still insert yourself into this. So you have a client ask you a question on a project. That is great content. You just get your phone out, video yourself talking about, I was asked this. This is how I'd handle that, and post these more personal posts in between your scheduled content. Your scheduled content can just be boring, like here we're just keeping this going. This is a beautiful design that I did last summer. This is something that I'm working on. It can be those kinds of things, but you absolutely want to insert you and your knowledge and what you know into the schedule and all the time. These are the premium social media tools and how much they cost. Sprout Social is by far the most expensive, but it is pretty comprehensive. I don't think you designers really need to pay for the social media tools. I think if you're a brand, you should, but designers really utilizing the free is more than enough. Email campaigns. Now, this is something that I think is incredibly important for designers, and I think that often we forget. When we poll their interior designers, 80% of interior designers have said that they get most of their projects from referrals. But we'll ask designers, how many of you have an email list? And usually 80% do not. So how can we stay top of mind if we're not reaching out to those past clients? And not in a way that sells them. You know that they just bought they just did a project. They're probably not going to redo their kitchen. They're probably not going to redo their bath. But there are other things that you're doing through the month that will keep you top of mind and keep those referrals coming in. So thinking of it in terms of what your client would really be interested in, we covered some of that, like it could be Valentine's Day date locations that are really dreamy interiors. It could be the best like old world pubs to spend St. Patrick's Day in. And it could be something that works with the local businesses. Here are the 5 best steakhouses in Chicago, and they have, and describing that. And then do you think that if you shared a post on Instagram tagging those businesses that they wouldn't want to share that because you just named them the best steakhouse in Chicago, of course they want to share it. So you're also automatically getting people to share to their audience, and that is a targeted audience that you want too. So think of all of those luxury businesses and how you can tag them in posting so that you're amplifying your message to luxury buyers. And I will say also, make sure you're creating localized content as much as possible. These are the email platforms for designers that I really like. My favorite is Flowdesk. You can do sales purchase through, they have a sales purchase through Flowdesk, but they have beautiful templates. They're very designer friendly. So I think if you spend a little time getting to know how to do Flowdesk, it's not something you have to do every day, but I would say twice a month is a good amount for interior designers, just to stay on top of mind. But even if you can only do once a month, one email a month, I think you're still going to stay top of mind for a past client. Leveraging ChatGPT, I can't say that enough because, I mean, it's so hard to do all of the things I just mentioned on your own. If you're a solo entrepreneur, if you have a small team, it's not easy keeping up with all of the content that needs to be out there. So using it for creating initial drafts, you can develop it and create your own ChatGPTs to understand your voice as much as possible, help you get started with that blog post, help you research what are the 5 best steakhouses in Chicago. It can answer that question in a few minutes, and then you can go on and figure out how you can get images for those steakhouses. But even having it write a list of all of the luxury businesses that it can name in Chicago so that you can start segmenting them, creating great templates and great lead magnets. What are your clients, they be interested in that they would want to sign up for an email list from you? Maybe you have an inside track you just went to High Point, you have an inside track on the best sofas in these price ranges. And that would be interesting information for them. Definitely do your keyword research through ChatGPT. Writing your product descriptions that we just talked about for your website, your copy for your website, getting you started where you can just kind of dump the ideas and talk through with ChatGPT what it is you are trying to get out there and using the words that you'd want to attract a luxury audience, and then read it to make sure it doesn't sound robotic and it sounds like you and it feels authentic and it isn't overusing the words that ChatGPT says over and over and over again, like final thought. It's a definite, we can spot it. So don't try to use it in a way that you're bringing in, it's producing the content that you want to share. Design tools with marketing applications. Now, these are some really new ones, some cool new ones that I love. Loom is fantastic. You can take let's just say you're doing a project proposal for a client, and you just email that. And then you don't hear, how often do you not hear back? Because you just emailed the proposal and it went nowhere. Well, Loom allows you to have your face on that. So if you're emailing the wife or the husband of the couple, or a team, maybe it's a commercial and you're just sending it to team leader, you'll lose the sale because it doesn't translate to the next person. The person that you're emailing to, you've had the best relationship with, you've had the most communication with, they are on board, but then they have to send that information to other decision makers. You want your face on there going through it and selling them on what it is you're doing. It's really neat. So it's just like a little circle of you talking them through the proposal or talking them through the contract or talking them through your onboarding materials. The new one that just came out is Notebook LM by Google. They are now, you can upload any document, any of your PDFs, and it instantly creates a podcast. This is brand new. And so for people who don't want to read anymore, which there are a lot of them, you can make your documents directly into podcasts that will talk for you. You don't have to do any of that. You just literally, I put my media kit into it. You can put your proposals into it. You can even ask it to interview you and respond, and it will treat it themselves like a moderator, and you just respond to those questions. Like, what does a project look like with you? What are the first steps? You could have it interview you, and you answer those questions, and that becomes the podcast. any way you can get interactive presentations. So this presentation was made on Gamma through AI. It took me maybe 5 hours, 3 hours. It would have taken me so much longer. Did go in and edit most of the slides, but so much longer if I had to do this by hand. And you can pick themes and you can give it a bunch of direction, and then it starts spilling out content that you really want. Anytime you can enhance the written word with speaking and selling and talking and relating, the better you're going to close those sales, because people buy from people, and they want to see you, they want to hear you, they want to trust you more when they see what you're really delivering. So I would use that on the regular basis if I were you. Local marketing strategies. Anytime you can network. You're always going to pick up nuggets from any event. You're coming here, you're writing things down. Anytime you talk with another designer or someone in the field, the home shows, trade shows, strategic partnerships with brands, feel free to reach out to people. If you think that a brand has something really interesting, as long as you're doing it in a thoughtful manner and you're not just sending the same message to 50 different people, you really are saying like, hey, how can I help you and you can help me, and let's work together. You want to do that as much as you can, because that spreads the message. Anything you can do here locally, like you might reach out to some of those luxury businesses and say, maybe it's a country club has a craft day, or the day school has a home fair. Reaching out and starting that conversation and inserting yourself into that conversation is smart. And local press, I think, by far is incredibly valuable, and targeted press too. So I know designers who have built great audiences because they advertised in Cigar Aficionado or Wine Magazine. They've designed wine rooms and advertised in the Wine Enthusiast. So very targeted marketing, and local marketing, I think, trumps the nationals, even though the nationals can give you more accolade. It's always a dream to be an AD designer, but it doesn't necessarily always translate to clients. And sometimes it actually works against getting new clients, because once you've been in those national magazines, people think you're too expensive. So leveraging your local community within the magazines, within all the publications you can think of here or around, or people that would come to Chicago. Measuring your data. I really use a lot of the data that we have about what works and what doesn't for interior designers. I think about it a lot. What's popular. And almost now, like 12 years of working with interior designers, very rarely do we do a post that just falls flat, because I already know when I've lined up that post what it does for the designer. And some I will do anyway, even though I know it's not going to be a huge viral content, but I think it's an important conversation for us to start talking about. Sometimes it's controversial with designers. I will sometimes do those conversations, but you want to make sure you're tracking what works and what doesn't, but give it some time to work. It's not going to happen overnight. Marketing is not, you don't do one post and it goes viral and you've got clients lined up the door. It's consistency, but you should be paying attention to what is working and what isn't working, and how you can, as long as you've given it that 6 months, it takes about 2 years to really effectively build an audience on a blog. It takes, about a year to really build a good audience on a social media platform, because you have to dig in and get to know people. If you're just posting and never going there again and not talking to anyone, you're not going to get anything out of it. So you want to measure, but you also want to do it as effectively as possible to make sure you're measuring real data. Things that are, if you didn't do it in 6 months, a post, you can't say Instagram didn't work for you because you weren't consistently working it. Client testimonial strategies, like we said, timing the request so that you're going on the emotional high points in the project journey. You're giving your thanks to all of the contributors of that project. You're guiding questions through the project so that you know that you're going to get that great testimonial at the end. You can even use ChatGPT to help them write it. What are the things you can say, I'll help you write it. What are the things you liked? Just interview them really quickly, and you throw that into a document and say, could you post this for me? And featuring those testimonials in your marketing throughout. So Maybe it's on Google Plus, or on Google. Maybe it's in house. Maybe it's on your website. You want to make sure that you're putting those testimonials throughout your marketing. Creating a marketing budget is tough, especially as a small business. So you definitely have to spend some money on your website. I mean, if you can DIY a website, but in order to have really good SEO, you do have to spend a little bit of money figuring that out, or time, either one. Photography is very important. I know a lot of publishers who just haven't been able to post the product because they just didn't have good enough photographs. But in that, you really want to make sure that you're protecting yourself with the photography contracts. I will say that as a caveat, because there are so many times when you want to make sure that you're really protecting, it's their copyright. They own the copyright of the photo. So you want to make sure you have right of use. And then, yep.
How are we on? Is it time for Q&A?
Yep, Q&A. Okay. All right. Well, we'll wrap up. And here's our sponsor. So any questions?
Somebody make up a question.
No, it's all right. Yes.
So a lot of work for marketing a company when you're juggling a bunch of clients.
Sure.
What's your advice about trying to outsource it versus make it authentic in your own?
So I would outsource the things that it's getting easier to outsource because there are now AIs to duplicate your voice. There are AIs that can duplicate your face and your body. So you can outsource in different ways than you could have even a year ago. But you still need to inject some of you into it so that people understand. Only you, a social media person that you hire, can do that basis work. They can schedule 5 posts a week for the month. It'll take them a certain amount of time. You'll pay them a monthly fee for scheduling 5 posts a week. But that isn't really ever going to grow your account unless you have content that people are interested in and would be exciting. Now, a really good social media person will dig into the new tools and make that more interesting than just a physical photo of one of your portfolio images. But I still recommend you be a part of that process because only you know what it is you went through for that project. And you would look at any portfolio image and you would be able to say, okay, this is what I did here, this is what I did, but only you have that story. The person you hire doesn't. So having good meeting with them when we're discussing projects and really relaying the information that you know and getting as much of that out as you can, stream thought, so that they're able to speak in your voice. Yes.
2 questions. First, to increase the SEO of your company, does Instagram Reels do that as well as LinkedIn, or is it only one?
Well, SEO, they have SEO components in Instagram. So if you type in interior design and you're not following interior designer, we have built such a great audience that interior design community comes up partially because of our name, but also the activity of their account, usually 1 or 2 spot if you're a new follower for us. So definitely Chicago interior designer, something in that nature. It can have SEO properties. Using your geolocation on every post can be helpful. But primary SEO is going to be your website. So it's blog, portfolio, about us. Anytime you can talk about what it is you do and those keywords that will attract the audience that you want, the better. And yes.
Laurie, I had a question. You were talking about creating your standalone website, and I recently, redid mine, and I got 2, what do you call it, bits of advice sitting on both shoulders. One company had told me, you have to have a link to the companies clicked in within the website. And then the other company said, oh no, make it all scrolls for the person who's on the phone.
Right.
To look through. Which one because we're kind of a niche. We're not,
Right.
we're designers. Which one is you think?
I think continual scroll is good. Certainly for the blog side of it, the continual scroll is good, or related posts as much as you can if that's built into your template. But you want to think about it from their point of view as much as you possibly can. Have friends from the viewer's point of view, from the potential client. Have people besides you. By the time you have launched your website, you have looked at it too much. So you, you need other eyeballs on it to say, oh, I thought that was difficult. And I thought this was hard to navigate. And really thinking about navigation, web page speed, mobile optimization. Do you have friends with an Android versus an iPhone, looking at it from different perspectives in different areas? Are you coming up on Google searches in different areas? Testing that incognito mode or with friends and family as much as you possibly can so that you know that the information there is valuable to the person that is finding it. Yes.
Adelaide, one of the things we struggle with is we have two audiences. We have homeowners, and then we have other design build professionals. So we're posting 5 days a week. But should we sometimes do a specific post for all the professionals? Sometimes.
Well, why are you marketing towards other professionals? What are you?
We'll talk about it later, but we do kitchen and bath, and we love collaborating
Sure.
with interior designers and architects and builders.
Right.
So
But
that's our audience.
you can do that in subtle ways where the client, it's really geared. You always want to be geared toward the client as much as possible, but tagging those members that were part of it, like I worked on this project with this designer, and then she shares to her audience too. As long as you're tagging and crediting, that is doing that just by tagging and crediting them, and giving them that warm fuzzy that when they worked with you, you acknowledged it. Do you know how many times I hear on the back end that the designers are saying to me, this person didn't credit me. That was my work. And it becomes a very sticky issue. And they might not want to work with you again if you're not tagging them. But creating that community environment that we're all on this team, we're all trying to get more business. We're all working together with as many people as you can that also service the luxury market and the type of client that you want to get, the better. Yeah. All right. Well, thank you so much.